I remember very distinctly thinking, where do they pay you to tell stories? It was as simple as that. Where will they pay me to write stories? That had been my love and strength at school. And I got sort of waylaid a bit after university when I did a degree, an honours degree in fine arts. And I ended up in a publishing company. And I thought, well, that's good, that's writing, that's books. But I was in the publicity department, and I was really bad at it. Really bad at publicity. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I was on the wrong side of the fence. I was on that side selling it, and I wanted to be on that side writing it. So after a year or so of that, I thought, look, it's journalism. I mean, they'll pay me to write if I got a job at something like The Age. So I sat back in the day then, you sat an exam to become a cadet. And the Age cadet exams were famous. They would fill Wilson Hall at the University of Melbourne with close to 1,000 young people all sitting a written exam. And if you got through the exam, then you got to the first round of interviews, then to the second round, and then hopefully you got one of 6 positions.
It seemed quite an unattainable...
It was weird, it was utterly unattainable. And at the same time I thought, oh no, I've got this. I don't know why I thought that. I had very little going for me to recommend me down that path apart from a real zeal for it and you know, a handful of stuff that I'd done at university for the university newspaper. But I managed to stumble my way through and get through. I remember not doing well on the written exam, but I do remember the feeling in the second interview of doing well in that conversation. I think that was actually the first kind of hypnotic attraction and addiction to the interview and doing the interview, because I could see that I was getting these people's attention and I was winning them over and I was somehow getting them to focus on me and connect to me. And I remember that feeling of thinking, oh, I like this. And that's the feeling that you chase in every interview that you do, where you try and get that person to trust you, to connect to you, to reveal and open up to you. So I somehow managed to get through and I started at The Age as a cadet.
Wow, so your first job was at The Age?
Yes.
What's a cadet at The Age?
A cadet is
Because for me that's an army term.
It sounds great, doesn't it? It's lovely. We're a little clutch of you know, baby journalists, and we have a cadet counsellor who was an old wizened man. He looked like a tortoise who had left his shell. If you imagine what a tortoise might look like out of a shell, that
vulnerable?
Vulnerable. No. He had a shell of a different kind. That long wizened neck and this balding head with glasses, and his name was Clive Malseed, which is so 19th century. I loved it. It was a Dickensian name. And Clive Malseed schooled us in the arts of journalism and taught us how to write a story, how to construct an intro, how to write a lead, how to check your facts. And he had a couple of dictates, but one in particular was, and he'd say it in his strange wizard voice, "Get it right, just get it right." And that was his bottom line. And that was the most important bottom line of all. You could have a lovely flourish and a great style as a writer and beautiful turn of phrase, which would mean nothing if you got your facts wrong.
Of course.
And so that has been the guiding principle. So he would teach us how to be a journalist. And being a cadet meant that you had to do the tides. So you had to get the information was sent into the paper every day about what tomorrow's tides would be, and you wrote them up for the paper, and you had to get that right. Because if you got the tides, the high and the low tides times wrong, then a fisherman would get stuck on the sandbar in Port Phillip Bay, and the editor would never hear the end of it. So there were exercises in accuracy.
I was going to say, it's like testing your precision.
Exactly. So it was the shipping arrivals we had to do, the tides. There were a couple of others I can't remember, but they were chores that we all had to do and share between us every day. And then we gradually got to the opportunity to write pieces, and we'd sent off to each section, off to business and sport and news, courts. And we were rotated through those sections where we learned what our skills were and what we really loved. And then we'd start pitching to the desk. And what I loved many, many things about the newspaper and still do. But one of the things I most loved and still do is that it's a genuine democracy. The best story wins. And you could rock up as a very junior reporter, but if you had a good story and you had it, like really had it, and you had your facts right, and you had some really great quotes in there, you had every chance of making the front page. I loved that democratic, fight for the good story.
Yeah.
Was a really intoxicating part of it.